Hi everyone, it's Kristen from The Creative Space and welcome to my first official Art Tip Tuesday. I am going to try to do these as many Tuesdays as I can. I do work part-time at a school, so sometimes I'm actually in school on Tuesday. So when I'm home, I'm going to try to do Art Tip Tuesday on a regular basis. So today we are going to be learning how to paint a seagull in the blue sky. So I'm going to turn my camera down. So again, forgive me for my super clunky turn around. Oh, there's my coffee. Still drinking coffee. Okay, so I wanted to start doing these Art Tip Tuesdays as a way to just kind of break down some of the things that we do when we're making art. And one of the things I wanted to talk about today, and sorry, I'm just getting myself situated. One of the things I wanted to talk about today is how when you are making something that is like the final work, when you see something that's the final result of something, it's actually a series of steps. So you want to break it down. Instead of being overwhelmed by the design, you want to break it down. So let me see if I can get a little closer. And if you are watching, thank you. Just say hello so I'll know who you are. Say hi if you're one of my regular Facebook members, one of my paint party guests, or if you're new to me, say hello so I know who's watching. And we're going to paint this blue sky and a seagull, and it's going to be step by step. I wanted to show you step by step how to do it. So I am using white, I am using cobalt hue and apple barrel, and this one is turquoise from apple barrel. I also tried Caribbean, which I liked pretty good. It's a little lighter than this one. I'm going to try this one because I can get this to be lighter by mixing white into it. So the first thing we're going to do is paint the sky. Now, I am painting on watercolor paper. So your surface makes a difference of how your paint is going to react, okay? So whether you're painting on canvas or wood cut or paper, each surface is going to take the paint a little differently. If you are painting on paper, you want to make sure that your paper can withstand getting wet. And watercolor paper is a really great paper for that. And it's thick and it has a nice texture. Well, let me see if I can turn this light on. Was that any better? Let me know in the comments if that was better. I'm always wondering if it's worth it to turn on that ring light. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I cleaned my brush. I'm using my big brush. I'm going to paint the background, and I'm going to grab a little bit of water, and I'm going to grab that turquoise color. So I kind of have them near each other on the plate so that I can keep a clean edge, but also they're going to mix eventually anyway. But I want clean white, clean blue, clean dark blue, but then I am going to pull a little of each one. So you always want to have like a clean side of your puddle and then the side that you're pulling from. Okay, so when I start to put this on, I'm just going to crisscross. I did not put anything under this piece of paper. My husband hates when I do this, but I'm going to clean it right away. It'll be fine. I'm going to grab a little bit of white, pull that in, make it look a little cloudy. Now, the watercolor paper does have a texture, just like canvas has a texture. You can kind of see that happening right there. I'm just dipping into water so that my paint is a little tiny bit thinner. Like when I grab it with a little water on my brush, it'll move better on the paper. We don't always do this in a paint party. I'm not speaking very clearly right now. We don't always water down the paint when we're doing it on canvas or on a wood cut. Sometimes we do on a woodcut, but right now I'm watering it down so I can get sort of a smoother look to it. I don't really want the brush stroke showing right this because of I want it to look like a sky. So I'm grabbing a little bit of white, kind of putting it in here, and then I'm going to blend that. Obviously I don't want it to be like that, but I didn't want it to be all white at the top. So I'm not really overthinking this, and I'm using wide brush strokes side to side, but not 100% straight across. I'm going to grab some of my dark blue now. I don't want to drip on my painting. If you drip on your painting, you'll get spots that you can't get rid of. I'm going to grab some of my dark blue, put some down the bottom. Now, because I'm painting on paper and I haven't taped it down, it's buckling a little bit. So I want to try and do these Art Tip Tuesdays. They're going to be quick little videos. Sometimes I'll sometimes go on and do like whole paintings. But for Art Tip Tuesday, I'm just going to keep it short. So that's why I'm just doing it on a small piece of paper. It's a tiny little tutorial, that'll just teach a little idea or a skill. So I'm going to add some of this dark color at the top now, and now I'm using my brush side to side. So I'm not getting the whole length of the brush stroke. Well, every now and then I'm going to wipe my brush because the bristles do start to separate, and I don't really want that. Sometimes you like the texture that bristles make when they separate, gives you something interesting, but not for a sky. I want to keep my bristles together. I might add just a titch more white in the sky. I don't want a ton, but maybe have it look sort of streaks of clouds going across. I'm going all the way off my paper because I don't want to just end a streak. I kind of want it to continue. Which is why I'm going to have to clean my table right away before this gets hard to clean off. I'm going to add just a little more dark coming up here, just to make that a bit more consistent. And I didn't really go all the way to the edge because this is just a practice. All right, so we got our blue sky done. I just needed a background for my little seagulls. So one of my friends affectionately calls them V-gulls because they're kind of like a V shape, and then we're just going to add a little bit more to them. Okay, so my sister-in-law Amy actually came up with this design, but I did ask her, oh, is it okay if I teach that on my page? And she was like, oh, sure. So anyway, thank you to Amy. All right, now let me just kind of say something. If this wasn't a quick tutorial and I was doing a more finished painting, I would tape this down so that it doesn't buckle like this, okay? When you do watercolor paintings, the first thing you do is tape your paper down to a surface so it doesn't buckle. But here we are. Okay, so I'm going to right now make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these shapes, because you'll see each step we're going to add something to it. Okay, so I'm using my small brush. Now what's nice about this small brush is even though it doesn't have a lot of bristles like this, they're longer, so you can use it to make a thin line, but then if you push down you'll get a thicker line. So you'll see how that comes into play in just a second. So I'm getting some white on my brush, and I'm just going to thin out a little bit of white right there. I don't want it too thin, but I want it to be nice and liquidy. Okay, now I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to lightly touch the paper to start this side, and then I'm going to push down to make it wider, and then I'm going to lighten up again. And I'm going to do the same thing and kind of come off, like lift off the paper. Okay, so I'm going to do that 4 more times. So I have 4 more step 1s. So I'm going to start light, and then I'm going to push down, and then I'm going to lighten up. Then I'm going to push down a little bit, but lighten up pretty quick. Okay, so we'll do that again 3 more times. And each time I'm getting some fresh paint, so I have a good amount of paint on my brush when I start. So I start off really light, so my line's kind of thin, and then I push down to use all the bristles, and then lift up, and then push down, and then lift up, so that that one sort of tapers off like that. Okay, we'll do that again. Touch down lightly, push down, lighten up, push down, lighten up. And each one of these little V shapes is slightly different. That's totally fine. They don't all have to be the same to look like a seagull. They just have to have this idea of like thin at the tip, thick at the body of the wing, coming the other way, here's the body of the wing, and then we have to thin it out. Well, that one looks a little weird, but that's okay. All right, so that's step 1. That's 5 step 1s. Step 2 is to add a little bit of gray underneath those little mountain shapes, because that'll give a little shading to underneath the wings. So I'm going to take some white and put it over here near my black, and I'm going to add a little bit of black to make a gray. A little black goes a long way. You do not need much black at all to turn your white gray. Now, depending on how much paint you used up here, you might need to give it a minute to dry. If you use a lot of paint, you want to make sure that you're not just putting into a big glob of paint. And that first one is a little wet, but I think I can use that to my advantage. So I am going to put a little curved swipe of gray under each wing. And I want to be thin towards the tip of the wing here, and then I can push down a bit more, and I'm going to lighten up as I come into the middle. The middle portion is going to be where the body is. So I want it to be thicker at the top and then get thinner towards the point. So on this side I start thin and push down and then lighten up. And over here I kind of push down right away and then lighten up towards the tip of the wing. Okay, so I'm going to do that 2 more times. Light, push down, pull up, push down, pull up. And I am overlapping that white a little bit. It's not just right underneath it, it's kind of overlapping that portion of things right here. So I thinned out what was white because I overlapped it with gray. Okay, so now I'm going to rinse my brush. And I am going to add the body. So now we're going to go back to the top. Oh, I didn't mean to do it this way. Oh well, they'll just have to deal with me. I totally messed up what I was trying to do. Here, I'll add one more bird all by itself. I was trying to show you the steps. Here. That's step 1. Okay. All right. So we did step 1 and we did step 2. All right. Now we're going to take white. And we are going to make the body of the bird. Okay, so get a good amount of paint on your brush. I'm going to leave these two alone. Step 1, step 2. All right, step 3 is to kind of make a oval shape here in the middle, facing that direction. So this is the body of the bird. And remember, this is a bird that's far away in the distance. So we don't see all its anatomical parts. We just see like hints of the bird. So this is like almost like an egg shape. And it's angled downward. And the tip of this egg shape right there is where we're going to put a beak. So it's facing that way. So it's like flying in that direction. So you want to make your egg shape sort of proportional with the wings. So it's more on this side and coming out, peeking out over here. Okay, so that's step 3. Step 1 is the white V. Step 2 is the gray underneath the curves. Step 3 is the egg shape for the body. All right, now step 4, we're going to clean our brush good because we're going to use black. And I don't want any white on my brush because now I want black. I don't want gray, okay? So we're going to take a little bit of black. And we are going to add, so step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 4 is to add a little bit of black to the tips of the wings. Okay, so it's almost like a triangle at the tips of the wings, and it's okay if your triangle doesn't come straight across because that'll look sort of feathery. But you do want it to come to a point, okay? So that's step 3. No, that's step 4. Adding the tip to the wings, black tip. Okay, now step 5, we're still going to use black. Step 5, we're going to add a little bit of tail, just a little bit. It's like the end of the tail. So we already know the bird's facing this way, so the tail is going to be right over here, okay? So all I'm going to do is put a little plop, plop, plop for the tail. Little. You could probably do it in 1 or 2 plops, but this way it sort of looks like it's a shape that you couldn't just get with like making a little triangle or rectangle. Okay, so that's the tail. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and step 5 is the beak. All you need is a little bit of orange. Tiny bit of orange. Right where you know is the end of your end of your bird's face. Make a little beak. So I'll give this guy a beak too. And I wouldn't even put an eye or anything like that. I keep it really, really simple. He does kind of have a fat body, but I like this bird better. But when it's all in a painting, it doesn't matter. It's going to give the illusion of what you're trying to create. So I hope you enjoyed that little short tutorial. I just wanted you to see how a lot of times something that you see as an end result is actually a build up of steps. Okay, so I hope to see you at next Art Tip Tuesday. Have a great day.